Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of inspiration, encouragement, and what we really want to do in these Mentor Mondays every week is that we want to encourage you to grow and to develop, and we want you to build those muscles that you need to be an extraordinary coach. As we always do, what we love to do during this time is actually to connect with you, because you know what? There's no fun in just being a talking head and not seeing or engaging with you. So do us a huge favor. Go ahead and jump in the comments right now, whether you're joining us from YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and tell us your name. Tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us one thing that you're excited about, that you feel life and momentum on. Let me say hello to a couple of people in here. There's Atavia. Welcome. Bart is joining us from Colorado. Welcome, Bart. And Michelle is joining us from North Carolina. She says, yay, it's Mentor Monday. Yay, awesome. Anybody else that would like to say hello to us, tell us your name. Well, we see your name. Tell us where you're joining us from and tell us what you're excited about this week. Also, we will do a little bit of Q&A at the end of today as well, but I always love to get your comments and your thoughts as we're going along as well. Joe is joining us. Whoa, where'd it go? Mark is joining us from Wisconsin. Rachel is joining us from Baxley, Georgia. Stoked to learn more. Awesome. And that's Joe joining us from Denver. So Colorado is actually being represented today, which is awesome. Let's see, who else do we need to say hello to? There's Brenda, who's joining us from Virginia. She said, excited for your support. Thank you. Who else do we need to say hello to? Patricia, welcome. Billy from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I know where that place is very well. Elise joining us from Atlanta. Patricia from Natchez, Mississippi. Patricia, I'm getting ready to make a trip, a 2-week trip to Mississippi. If it doesn't happen this coming week, it's happening in 2 weeks. My mom actually lives in Meridian, Mississippi. And so I'm going to be going and hanging with her for a couple of weeks, because she's got some things that she's getting worked on as she's progressing in age beautifully. But I'm going to be in Mississippi for a couple of weeks. Love that. Who else do we need to say hello to? Brennan, who's joining us from Wellington, New Zealand. Welcome. Anybody else that would like to say hello to us? We're about to jump in to the topic today. Traymond, who's saying hello. Anybody else would like to say hello? So let's do this. Let's talk about what we're talking about in the series that we actually started this past week, which is how to get out of your own way. What I have found in all of the years of working with coaches and my own personal story of breaking in to coaching after having kind of a lot of traumatic life experiences that would actually really make you withdraw, would actually make you not move forward in your life in a lot of cases. I figure all of us kind of have a lot of these common things that come up. And the reality is that in so many coaches, and literally we've worked with thousands of coaches at this point, I see a lot of the same patterns and a lot of things that are common barriers that actually keep people stuck, or it makes them withdraw. Right about the point that you're about to move forward, you find that these things pop up. And so really what this series is really focused on are some of the common things, common instances, common characteristics, common kinds of things that get in the way for a lot of coaches who really want to start. And it's amazing how you really want to start. You actually really want to move forward. You have this dream in your heart for something. And it's amazing how some of these kinds of things will pop up. And rather than going for the thing that you actually want, the thing that that you're a little bit afraid of, where you're a little bit uncertain, it's crazy how no matter how big or small that thing is, a lot of times it's actually designed to keep you where you're at. That's what a barrier actually does. And this week, we're actually focused on this whole topic of playing it safe. And let me say hello to a couple of people really quickly who are saying hello to me really quickly. LaShonda, who's joining us from Queens. Priscilla, who's saying hey. And there's Lori, who's joining us from Pennsylvania. And Dustin. Oh, actually, Rachel's actually commented with tagging somebody in there. Appreciate that. So let me just share one of my own personal stories. You know, a lot of times it just helps for everybody to be real, to know that we've all walked through sometimes disappointment, sometimes regret. Sometimes we probably all have our story of when we should have moved, but we didn't, and we withdrew, and We stayed in our safe place. Because what I'm not saying that you should never play it safe, because what is safety? Safety, if we're doing it in the real way, means that if you are if you've had too much to drink, that you call somebody to give you a ride, or you get an Uber, or you do something like that, right? Because we're literally talking about safety in that sense. Safety, in terms of when is it good to play it safe, means that you're not going on a shopping spree when you know the rent is due and you don't have any extra money, right? It also means that you don't go to the casino or bet all of your money and hope that rent is going to be paid because you're playing the lottery or something like that, right? So, I mean, these are kind of, is that an extreme example? Yeah. I mean, safety, that's what we're really talking about, is that we're talking about the things that could possibly take our life, could possibly hurt or be detrimental to things. It means that sometimes that you don't say things out of line and say something that's really crazy that disturbs your finances, your relationship with certain people. It means that this is where we want to live in a safe place, is that we're not doing stuff that is emotionally driven to a place where it really detriment our life, our standards, the roof over our head, or any of those things. Like, I'm not talking about those kinds of things, right? What am I really talking about? I'm talking about our sense when we get disturbed, when we get blown out of the water, and it's really not as big of a deal as what our emotions are telling us that it really is. And here's my own story of that. I don't know if you guys know what you're looking at here, but this is a chart, and you notice something in this chart. You notice on this chart that it's really low on this end and it's really, really big on this end. You know what this is a chart of? It's a chart of Bitcoin. You see that? And what we're looking at is roughly 2013, some point. I know it says September of 2013, probably a little bit earlier is what I was trying to look at. But if you see this, you can see this line that seems like it kind of has a gradual growth, and then it kind of goes really crazy. Well, I'm going to share my own story about Bitcoin. I'd started out as a coach. I was making good money, but there was something that I hadn't learned yet. And it's this whole idea of investment, because what I really liked, and because I was actually responding out of a lot of trauma out of my life, because when I was growing up, it was really hard for my parents to make ends meet. My dad made about $175 a week when he got his full salary. My mom worked really hard, and she worked at Walmart making about $5 or $6 an hour so that we had health care. That she could, and she saved for her Christmas club so that her kids had presents at the end of the year and stuff like that. They were diligent. They were really hardworking people. And for me, I had shame and guilt with regard to even taking gifts and everything from my parents, because I knew that we didn't have it. And I can go to those traumatic moments of my life. When I got my birthday money, I was excited about my birthday, but I also felt so guilty because it was my birthday and my parents are giving me money. And I would take the money and I would hide it back in my dad's wallet after when the coast was clear. These are the kinds of things that I experienced growing up. And they're probably not unlike a lot of other people who have different experiences of things. And you know what happens is that those experiences a lot of times teach us thoughts and ideas about safety that aren't exactly accurate. And so a lot of times we're responding out of trauma, or we're responding out of tragedy, or we're responding out of some kind of a regret for some kind of decision that we made. Now, fast forward 2007, I was like a lot of people who lost everything in 2007. I lost my job. We lost our house. We had everything that you can imagine just completely fell apart. And I actually did not have a job for 6 months. And not only did I not have a job for 6 months, we had to move in with friends for about 6 weeks. It's about the lowest that you could possibly get. I'm certain that you could get lower than that. But for me, everything, all the wheels had completely come off. So fast forward a few years, and I'm making money and everything else. And here's what I liked. I liked the fact that I could look at a checking account, or I could look at a savings account, and I could see money that was in there. But I was flirting around with some ideas of investing. And, there's safe investments, right? There's stuff that everybody knows about and are very familiar with. Well, when this idea of Bitcoin came around, it was like cryptocurrency. And I'm researching it and I like the idea of it, but I was like, but I don't understand what it is. And how do I know that somebody's not ripping me off? And I had all of these thoughts and everything else. And I struggled with it to buy into it. Like I was so afraid. And and here's the funny thing is that I'm not talking about that I was trying to invest $10,000 or $20,000. I'm talking about I could not even make a $1,000 decision to get into Bitcoin. Matter of fact, it wasn't even a $1,000 decision. I couldn't make a $100 decision. You know why? Because I was so afraid and I had so much regret and I had so much trauma that I felt like I'm going to ruin this for everybody. And this is not a safe move. So you know what? I wouldn't make a $1,000 decision, but you know what? I wouldn't even put 50 bucks in. Meanwhile, I'm talking to one of my friends who had 5 kids at the time, and he wasn't making buku bucks or anything else. And for those of you who don't know what buku is, it's because I'm from Louisiana originally, and it's just a word we use. I don't know. You can probably fill in the blank. But he didn't have buku dollars. But when I told him about it and everything else, he's kind of like looking at it like, well, what is there to lose? You know why? Because Bitcoin at that time, and you're going to die when you see this, it was less than $200. This is not like some extraordinary investment that we're making at that time. So you know what he did? He made about a $50, $60 decision. He at least, as much as he had going on in his life and everything else, he's kind of like, how bad could this go? Like, seriously, when I look at this and it's $50 or $60, I can't imagine it could go that bad. And so in the process of the conversation, he literally creates an account and he buys the thing. And you know what? Paul doesn't do anything. Well, fast forward to right now. And you know what Bitcoin is today? It's like $33,000. So here's the thing is that I could have had at least 5, but you know what? I could have just bought 1. Like I didn't need to make a $1,000 decision. Why couldn't I make a $200 decision? 1 Bitcoin, I could turn $200, less than $200 into 33,000. Matter of fact, it's gone higher than that at times, and it will continue to go higher. But see, what was making the decision for me was the fact that I wanted to play it safe. How much safer could I have made it if I'm not even spending $200? See, this is a much bigger thing because the reality is that $200 was not going to put me out of business. It was not going to ruin my family. It was going to do any of those things. But I was choosing to play it safe because of a lot of reasons. You know, fear is one of them, but a lot of regret and a lot of disappointment that I had in my life. And you know what? I'm the person who looks like the fool now. My friend who put about $50 or $60 in has thousands of dollars now as a result of that decision. You know what he has? He has about, $15,000, $16,000 off of a portion of a Bitcoin. Why couldn't I have made that decision? Because it wasn't about the money. It was about something else that was going on in my life and the choice to just simply play it safe. I want to give you a couple of really cool quotes that I like about this. Patty Dye says, the death rate for people who play it safe and for those who live boldly is the same. I love that quote because it's not what we're talking about is playing it safe of like, hey, I'm going to make crazy risky decisions. I'm not talking about that at all. What I am talking about is the decisions in your life that right now, the things that matter most to you, you have to make a critical decision. And you know what it means? That sometimes flying into a place that is completely unknown, where you don't have control 100%, where there's a little bit of uncertainty. Because here's the deal, is that everything that you've ever done in your life at some point had a degree of uncertainty in it. And sometimes you were pushed into it. Like your parents made you go to school. Some of you were forced to take on particular roles and learn kinds of new things. And it was like, hey, it's part of your job. You're going to have to learn this thing. Well, and you know what? You figured it out because you didn't really have any other options. You kind of got pushed into it. But sometimes when it comes to our dreams and our destiny, it's not going to be something that we just simply walk into. You know what it means? It means that there's going to be new skills that need to be developed. It means that you're going to be tested. You know, the things that really matter to you are going to that you're going to be pushed and you're going to be tested a little bit. And those are the very things in many cases that we're trying to avoid. See, the thing about playing it safe is that, well, let me give you one more quote, and it's from this great philosopher that you might have heard of before, and his name's Jim Carrey. And you can find this video where he says this. He says, my father could have been a great comedian, But he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. And I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a choice on what you love. Let me give you my own personal quote about this. My own personal quote is this: I have never met a person who was satisfied in their soul by playing it safe. This is what we're really talking about, is that there is a cry in your heart. There is a deep place in your heart that will not be silenced. And your safety will not make it go to sleep. It will not make it go away. And you can keep managing your life where you do not deal with any failure, and you can manage your life where you stay in the comfort zone. But there is no one that I have ever met in my life that feels completely satisfied when their heart is crying for something else. And this is what I'm speaking to. See, because I believe that the people who are coming in and want to be coaches and they aspire for more, they're not simply going after the money. Money is a great benefit of it because coaches make a lot of money. I get that. But the reason why we are talking, see, the reason why you're even watching, and the group of people who are watching right now, is because there is something that you want in your life. Otherwise, we wouldn't care, you know? But it's very possible that up to this moment that you have played it safe and you are doing everything that is familiar. You are doing everything that is common. You are doing everything that you know that your talents and the thoughts about yourself have given you. They've brought you to this moment. But you know what? The thoughts and feelings that you have about yourself and about your limits and about the beliefs that you have about yourself, the skills that you have up to this point, they've only brought you so far. The cry of your heart is for something more. I've just never met a person who is playing it safe and they felt completely fulfilled. Now, if you've played it safe your whole life and you feel completely fulfilled, I doubt, well, I don't know why you're listening. First thought, but my gut is that if you're still here, that you've come up to this point and it's like, hey, you know that you're made for something more. You know that your heart longs for something more than what you have lived. But for some reason, you've played this game so that you don't have to go into the discomfort, the uncertainty of actually moving forward. And for you who really want that, I want to speak to that just really quickly of how do you actually move forward? How do you get unstuck? How do you quit playing small ball and actually get in the game? Well, here's what I think. How to stop playing it safe. Here's the first thing that I would say is that first off, you've got to reframe your biggest regret. And what do I mean by reframe your biggest regret? What we have to understand is that in many cases, the reason why we're not moving forward is because we have past regret and we got burnt at some point and it made us not want to move forward anymore. Because everything, the pain of that regret tells us that you don't want to go there again. You don't want to risk again. You don't want to love again. You don't want to make an attempt again. You don't want to put yourself out there again. And here's what you've got to understand is that if you do not reframe, if you don't tell a new story about whatever happened in that moment, you will live in prison of fear. You will live in prison to that moment. You will live in prison to that person who said whatever they said to you, or the hurt or the pain that happened in that moment. You know, the reality is that we have listen, there's going to be difficulties. There's going to be failure. Listen, we live in this world, and you know what? There's 100% guarantee that everybody's going to experience pain and disappointment and failure at some point. I can't change that, but I can choose my reaction. I can choose the story that I make about it. When I look at the stuff that I have been through and the struggle and the financial struggles and everything that we walked through in those moments, I could have continued telling the story. And listen, I was repeating that story. I was repeating the story that I grew up in. I was repeating the story in my marriage and in our family of struggle and just getting by and everything else, until one day I had to choose a different story. I had to choose what I was really telling about it. And so reframing your biggest regret means that regret happened. I understand that, but it also means that we have to begin to forgive ourselves. because of the regret. Because a lot of you are blaming yourself for stuff that in many cases is not your fault. Listen, failure is not something that can crush you and ruin your life. Failure is only crushing to you if you stop. That's what failure is. Failure or bad things and disappointments is only bad if you didn't learn anything. But here's what I know is true for every one of you. I guarantee you that you learned something out of every disappointment and every failure, and you learned something. Your character adapted, you grew, whatever. You're probably a better person as a result of failure. You probably didn't learn nearly as much from every success that you have as much as you've learned from failure. And we've got to reframe it that every failure, every struggle was a defining mark on our life in terms of improvement in our character. And it was also preparing us for the greatness. Listen, every great story that you can think of in your lifetime had someone who was on a quest that ran into some difficulties and challenges. And the difficulties and challenges refined their approach in moving forward, except for the people who dealt with the difficulties and challenges and they quit. Those are the stories that no one wants to tell. The stories that everybody wants to watch and read and see a movie or whatever are the stories of how did this person have the resilience to continue to move forward. It's all about how they perceive failure. It's all about how they perceive the struggle and told a different story than what most people do. See, because a lot of people like to tell the victim story. They like to tell the story of there's no opportunity for me. They like to tell the story of, there's very limited options. I'm a person who has a lot of lack. My family was always poor, all of those other things. Those are stories that people tell all the time. And you know what those stories enable you to be? It enables you to be mediocre. It enables you to be a victim. It enables you to never go after your destiny. And I'm here to tell you that none of you have a right to not live into your potential. I am stripping you of your right to tell a story that lowers your potential and lowers your ability to change this world. Because I believe that you are here to make a mark on this planet. I firmly believe that. It's a conviction in my heart. And it's not okay for you to tell a story that you are not the hero in. I'm not okay with that. I don't care what the difficulties and struggles are. I know where mine came from. I know what my family history was. Not even 100 years ago of immigrating into this country and starting with nothing and being the house that all the family members, that came from the Middle East, they were living in, and they were eating beans. They did everything that they could just to start. And you know what? That could have been the way that we defined our story, that we're going to be the people who struggle, that all the family and everything else is all living in this tiny house on 9th Street in Louisiana, and all these stories. We could have picked all of those stories, except that everybody chose very different stories. I can point to the success and I can point to the different things that I can see in family members and everything else, but it's all about the story that they chose to tell. And so we've got to reframe that story. We got to reframe regret, and we've also got to forgive ourselves. Hey, let yourself off the hook. Some of you are incredibly compassionate people, and you're incredibly merciful and full of grace to everybody else on the planet except yourself. And you know what? You got to let yourself off the hook. Failure is part of life, but it doesn't name you for the rest of your life. Here's the next thing, is that you've got to begin to listen to the longing of your soul. Because the longing of your soul has nothing to do with a personality type. There's some people who are like, well, going after the things that are in your heart, that's for certain kinds of people who are passionate and risk-taking extroverts or whatever. I'm an introvert. I had a great conversation with one of my clients earlier today about introversion. And a lot of people don't think that I'm an introvert because I'm loud and I have a loud voice and I can go live on a camera. Well, you know what? When I'm in a studio, there's nobody else but me and one other person around here for the most part. I get to go live, and you know what? I do it, and I'm still the same person who generally doesn't answer the doorbell. Generally the person who doesn't answer the phone on the 1st or 15th ring, because I need to get emotionally prepared to take that phone call, or to even get emotionally prepared to see the text and respond to the text. That's who I am, as what my default is. But here's the thing. 2 things I'll say about it. One is that my calling and the purpose that I have on this planet, I'm going to live into that before I'll live into my personality type. Some of you who have been using excuses about your personality type and some of your lack of ability in certain areas, listen, the calling and purpose over your life is too big for it to submit to even your skill level, your education level, your background level, or to the level of your personality. No, you need everything about you to raise to the level of what your calling and purpose is on this planet. And you know what? Your skills will meet it. Everything about you will show up in that day when you start paying attention to the longings of your heart. It's not a personality type. The wiring that's in your heart doesn't have anything to do with personality. There are some people who take risks. I'm not talking about taking risks. I'm talking about being true to the longings of your soul, because it's never going to go away. The best thing that you can do with the longings of your soul is try to pretend like it doesn't exist, and to try to pretend to go off and do different kinds of things to try to numb it. But it's never going to go away. It's going to haunt you for the rest of your life because you don't have any control over it, because you are wired with it. It's why you're on the planet. It's why you've got breath in your lungs. Second thing that I would say is this, is that you've got to get clear about what matters most. See, because what ends up changing everything, changes the landscape of everything, is that what you have to understand is that these longings of your soul, and what you can find is true about regret, is that regret can tell you, in many cases, what matters most to you. What is it that you value? See, when you start going after the things that matter most to you, people who do not pursue what they value in life and do not pursue what's actually the longing of their soul, they're in the biggest amount of pain ever. They are in so much pain. They are so demotivated in work. They feel that lack, and they feel that dearth and that gap that's happening in their life all the time. Well, you know what? You've got to pay attention to those things. That once you start to pursue it, here's what happens, is that the fear starts to subside, because you're actually being true to yourself and you have a life that's fully aligned and you're moving towards it. Here's the next thing that I'll tell you, is that you've got to get in a community of people who've gone or are going first. See, because one of the things that I think that we lack a lot of times is that we act like we're the first person ever, like we've discovered a continent or something like this. You know that there has never been someone there's never been an occasion like when you went to school, there was somebody who went to school before you. When you wanted to start a business, there was somebody before you who did that. Somebody who got married before you. In most cases, you have never done something that has not been done before, or pursued something that there's somebody else who didn't have the same or worse odds than you, as far as that's concerned. And what happens in a lot of cases is that we always like to think we have such a crazy thought about ourselves, like we're the exception to the rule. Like some of you actually believe that you're an exception to, like, everybody else who wants to be a coach can become a six-figure coach except for you. Like some of you actually think crazy thoughts like that, because it's completely crazy. I watch people who are successful in business who do things and they're successful in spite of what they're doing. They're doing everything wrong, but because they actually will take action and move towards it, things start flowing their way. But what we have to begin to do is to start actually living in community with people, like living in community with other people who are starting coaching practice, live in community with other people who are learning, who are growing. And some of those people are going to be just ahead of you, and some of them are going to be at the same place as you. What you can do, like some of you are always scrolling through social media and you're watching funny cat videos and everything else. Why don't you actually make that work for you? Join Facebook groups. Check out stuff that's on Instagram that's going on. Whatever your social media flavor is. If you're on YouTube all day, look for people who are embarking and pioneering and have been doing the things that you want to do. Because you know what starts happening is that your faith begins to grow. Your hope and your faith begin to grow. Your faith and this expectation that good things are going to happen for you, because you start noticing that other people are doing the very thing that you want to do. See, some of you live in community with people who are faithless people. that aren't going after anything. And I'm not knocking people in general, but I would say that there's plenty of people that we're in relationship with that haven't pursued anything new in 10 or 15 years, and they're skeptical and they're negative and they're not really hopeful people. Those are not the kinds of people that you want to share your dreams with. I'm not saying that you don't keep loving them and staying in relationship with them and praying for them and everything else, but your calling and purpose on your life is so precious that you've got to get around people who are actually doing that thing. Get around successful people. Get around people who think differently. The day that my money issue started changing was the moment that I had 2 clients that were making close to $500,000 a year, and I was driving around on a scooter at the time. And I'm not exaggerating that at all. I'd literally meet them at a coffee shop, and I'd park a parking lot over so that they wouldn't see my bumblebee colored scooter when I pulled in there. And being around those people and learning how they thought and what expectation they had in their life and everything else started rubbing off on me and started challenging how I thought about myself and actually how I started thinking about possibilities and money. Here's the next thing, is that you've got to begin normalizing going for the dream in your heart. Now, part of being around people is going to make it normal to make money. It is normal. Let me say this over your life. It is normal for you to succeed. It is normal for you to crush it. It is normal for people to want to work with you. It is normal to be able to pay your bills and have money left over. It is normal for you to be able to take care of your kids and to have financial freedom. It is normal for you to do better than what your parents were able to do. All of this stuff is normal. And how do you normalize it? Because the things that you are around the most, the things that you touch the most, the things that you talk about the most end up becoming just a part of you. You know, like some of us, what's become normal is talking about impossibilities. It's talking about how negative something is or how there's not as much opportunity as there used to be or something like that. Listen, there's crazy opportunity to make money and to build businesses that did not exist when I started. It's so much easier these days than ever to actually break into a business and be extraordinarily successful. But in the exact same thing that you've learned things and you've learned a language around things is because it's become normal. Hey, I understand what it feels like to be risk averse and not wanting to take huge risks. I'm not talking about taking risks. What I am saying is that to go after something and to be ambitious for the things in your life can be something that's very normal. It becomes a normal kind of thing in your life. Let me show you something really quickly while we're on this. This little bitty tiny thing that you see in this brain right here, you see this little bitty thing right here? That little thing right there is called the amygdala. And it's controlling all of your fear reactions and your emotional reactions and all. This is what's actually keeping you in prison right now and keeping you from moving forward and believing that this is normal to go after these things. You know what that thing does? What it does is that it keeps you safe and it keeps you from getting killed. So if there's something that is dangerous around you, it's going to erupt and you're going to have an emotional reaction and then you're going to flee and you're going to run off. I learned something about my dog this past week. YouTube served up a video that was like 10 things that dogs do and why they do them. And I'm like, well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Why don't I watch this or whatever it was? So anyway, I watch it and it talks about the common behaviors of dogs. And I don't know if you guys have dogs, but one of the things that dogs do when they go and relieve themselves, I'm not trying to be crude, so when they relieve themselves and they go out, I don't know if you guys have noticed that a dog will go out in the backyard. Like my dog has a specific spot in our yard and she will do several circles before stopping to finally relieve herself. Now there's 2 things that are happening when they do that. One is that it's literally getting into a north-south position in terms of alignment with the magnetic fields, which is weird. But the other thing that's happening is that whenever you see a dog do this, whenever you see somebody else's dog do it, you know what they're doing is that they're marking their territory with their feet, but they're also making sure that the coast is clear because they're about to be in a vulnerable position where they can become prey. That's why a dog does it. And you know what's making it do it? This thing right here. It's the way that animals actually react. And here my dog has never even seen another animal in the backyard besides a bird, but she still does this thing. Why is she still wired in this kind of a way? Well, here's the thing. Is it anything that's new for you makes this thing go crazy? And it makes like it's going to be a nuclear meltdown and you're going to get ruined. And you know what happens is that when the emotions come up, then the emotions are like, okay, what's going on? This is something new. We got to avoid this. And so some of you have these emotions that come up that are shutting you down because you know what? All it is, it's not something that's dangerous. It's just something that's new. That's why we've got to normalize and become familiar and make it part of our environment every day of our life. Dreaming about this thing, pursuing it, and taking steps. Here's the interesting thing. Like, there's a lot of people who, one of the top fears all the time is public speaking. What happens when you go and you have public speaking? Well, people talk about that their hands sweat and that they tremble and they have butterflies in their stomach and they get hoarse and their throat gets all tight and they get sick to their stomach and they can't eat. And they're just all of these kinds of things that happen when somebody gets up to speak. Now, they're not going to die, right? But all of these things kick up. Why? This right here. And you know what their association with is? I'm terrified and I'm going to fail. That's what's going on in their mind. Well, let me tell you about this. Have you ever been in love for the first time in your life? Maybe it was your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You went on that date. Do you remember what you felt like? Your palms were sweaty. You were nervous and you were saying awkward things. Your throat was getting all tight and you were hoarse. You had butterflies in your stomach. You felt like you were going to throw up. You felt like you couldn't eat. You were sweating, all of those things. What was the difference? Here's the difference is that in one situation, you said, this is fear and I'm about to get ruined. And in the other one, you said, I'm in love. It's the exact same reaction. It's the exact same reaction, but it's how you've associated what you're feeling. Here's what I have the exact same reaction whenever I'm going to get up in front of a crowd of 10 to thousands of people. And I've spoken to crowds of thousands. And I have the exact same reaction that other people have that are getting ready to get up. But you know what I have that associated with? I have it associated with, I'm about to crush it. I'm about to help these people in their life. I'm so excited about today because I get to share my gift. And this is what I'm made to do on the planet, is to open up doors. It's to get people out of their prison and to get them moving towards whatever they're made for. I think about those things every day. But it's the same reaction that somebody gets, but they associate it with failure and with fear and all of those other kinds of things. It's all about how we associate these things, but we've got to become familiar. We've got to handle these things. We've got to not be afraid of success or failure. Here's the next thing. Ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? Like for us, our life coach training program, our life coach certification program, it starts at like $195. And some people can't even make a $195 decision, like me, when I couldn't buy into Bitcoin years ago. And it's crazy because it's not going to ruin anybody's life. Like if you get certified today, I'm just using that as an example because all of you are aspiring coaches. You know that that's not going to take food out of your kid's mouth. You know it's not going to ruin your life. What's the worst thing that could happen? Is you get a credential and now you have more opportunity that's opening up at work. You know, I got certified while I was still working full time. And I started having coaching opportunities that started opening up at the place that I was in because I was actually growing and developing myself while everybody else was doing the same old job and not doing that. They literally started opening up opportunities, even though I wasn't a manager, to start coaching people in the organization. It was crazy how that went. You know what that did is it actually made me more valuable because now I've got something that's like the worst thing that could happen is that you develop and you grow a skill. We've got to be honest about that. That's the worst thing. That's the worst case scenario because you can't fail at this. Here's the next thing is that you've got to ask yourself, what reward will I miss? You know, I very much personalize these kinds of things because it's not just about me personally. The thing that I would say is my regret from not making that investment years ago was, wow, like what would I have for my children? Because those are the things that I think about when I look at my kids. Pretty much everything that I do is always thinking about who they are and their legacy, my legacy for them. What am I going to leave? There's an old scripture. It's an old proverb that says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. I take that really seriously. I grab a hold of those things because I know that it actually matters. And so my kids I've gotten to say yes to so many things since I've become a coach, because those are the things that really drive. And you know what? I'd have to ask that question. This is the question you have to ask, is what reward will you miss in this life and in the future life if you don't go for this thing, if you don't move forward? Ask yourself, what's going to be your biggest regret? You know, there's nobody who's sitting on their deathbed thinking, man, I wish I would have played it a little safer in my life. Nobody's thinking of that. Everybody's thinking about the opportunities that they missed, that they wouldn't say yes to things. I think the hardest thing that anybody is going to experience when they pass from this life into the next, which I believe in, that they're going to wake up in the next reality and say, man, I played it so safe because I didn't realize how much opportunity I really had. Those are the things that haunt me more than anything. Is I don't want to have regrets. I want to live my life like I believe that I'm living it now, that when my head hits the pillow at the night, that if I die in my sleep that night, that I have finished everything that I knew that I was starting. That's the satisfaction that I believe that we're all called to live into. You know what? You've got to connect this dream with someone or something that has infinite importance. It's got to be bigger than you. If you're going to stay motivated, I think about it when I look in my kids' faces all the time. I can't tell them to live into a life that they were meant for and talk about their dreams and what they are here on the planet to do if I won't take those kinds of steps. You know what I want to do? I want to cut a path for them. Not just because I'm making money and they have an inheritance. I want to cut a path for them because I'm willing to say yes to things. I'm willing to try something and fail and to be able to tell the story. Say, hey, you know what? Dad's still living. Dad's still doing really good. I challenge my kids in those kinds of ways to have extraordinary value and worth for themselves. I'm watching it with my teenage daughter right now and her entrepreneurship. I'm watching it with my 9-year-old who's posting things on eBay, setting up yard sales, and writing scripts for TV series at 9 years old. And I really believe that those are the things that I have to connect everything with something infinite. You know what part of the things that I connect it with? I connect it with the fact that if I will go first, I can cut a path for every one of you. Those are the things that I think about. Every day I'm thinking, how can I serve these coaches better? How can I open the door wider? How can I make it easier and simpler for you to be able to make a choice in your life? Those are the things that I think about every day. Here's another simple question that you can ask yourself. What plan B has the power to change my life? Why do I say plan B? Because I'm not telling you to go quit your job and start to become a coach. I understand. Like, we've got things that are going on. We've got responsibilities, everything else. I didn't quit my full-time job to become a coach. There was too much riding on the income that I was making. It wasn't getting us, it wasn't creating any margin in our life, but it's not like I could give it up either. But see, if you have a plan B, let's say that you have a plan A that doesn't work out, your plan B should not look like what you were doing before. Like, if you added one component in your life today, when I say plan B, I'm saying, like, if you made the least change in your life, that the least change to just get trained and certified and to start coaching people on the side, that even that can begin to change your life. Because when you start living into your destiny and you start helping other people, then all of a sudden it starts to create a culture around you that is completely different than anything that you've lived into. You know, like, even when I was working full-time in the job, people would see me come in after I'd coached somebody really early in the morning, and I would come to work. I was a different, transformed person because I knew I was living into purpose instead of just punching a clock every day. It changed the dynamic in the environment that I was living into. See, it doesn't mean that I'm telling you to do something crazy. I'm telling you just like, hey, if you made a small change in your life, that you can, what small change could you make around this that would begin to change your life right now? Let me pay the bills really quick, and I'm going to say hello to everyone. This weekend is bootcamp weekend, and I will stick around and answer some questions. It's July 23rd through the 25th. I want to talk about two things about this so that you know what to expect. Some of you have never gotten trained and certified as a coach. Some of you have time constraints. Everything that we've ever tried to do with our program is two things. One is to take the financial excuse out of your hand, because we literally, for everything that we have payment plans. We've created everything so that it's affordable, but we've also made it where you can do it even if you're working full time and you have kids and everything else. So this weekend, we're going to start on Friday night. And we're going to have 7 total sessions, a Friday night session, 3 sessions on Saturday, 3 sessions on Sunday. Some of the things that we're going to be covering during this time are this, like what is coaching, the 4 lenses of a first-class coach, the steps of a coaching session, building a coaching framework that gets results, focused, effective coaching that cuts out the fluff, how to help your clients maintain motivation, 2 models of coaching, core skills and characteristics for breakthrough coaching, the best practices for ethical coaching, how to ask powerful questions, how to build coaching relationships that last, what to include in coaching agreements. There's a lot more that we're covering besides that. It is live. It's expanded training that isn't offered in our current live coach training course. We have live Q&As after every session. We have live coaching demos. So you're going to get to experience what does coaching look like, an experience of it. You can practice or you can watch what other people are doing. We bring them up live and we watch these things happen in real time. We also have a free replays for the next 90 days, because a lot of times with coaching, it's better caught than taught. Some of the things that you won't get in during that weekend, you also have access through all of the replays for every boot camp that we've had. Life coach certification is included. A free listing on lifecoachmatch.com is included. Your credential ID is included, that you can also integrate into all of your social media and LinkedIn. You also do get a certificate, all of those things, and the cost is ridiculous. It's only $247 for all of that. But let me say one more thing. For those of you who like the experience of a Monday, let me sweeten the pot, because we give every program that we actually offer, life coach training, we give you boot camp. We give you something called Brand Camp, which is 10 hours of training on how to do all of your branding and all of your marketing messaging. But that's not all. Boot Camp is our business development roadmap. And so you're going to get over 30 videos that are your step-by-step guides on how to start a coaching practice and how to build a 6-figure practice. We give monthly specialty workshops. Next month, we're going to be focused all on building and growing your Instagram following. That's what's coming up next month. Not only do you get all of those tools, business development tools, and the steps on how to do that, we have an online community where you can connect with other coaches. You can get feedback on anything that you're working on. We give you everything from how do you build your website to search engine optimization, about everything that you can imagine to be successful. Whether you are going to be a traditional coach, a hybrid coach, so you're going to be finding people online, and a traditional face-to-face coach, or a fully online coach, the Jumpstart suits every one of these people. Also, you do get certified as a coach in this thing. So everything, we also have a live group coaching call every Wednesday where I answer any questions that you have, and we do ongoing training. The cost is only $97 a month. It's very low risk and high reward. This is worth thousands of dollars, and you get it $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. If you enroll in Jumpstart today, you can get into boot camp. So rather than paying $247 for boot camp, 3 months alone of Jumpstart is only $291. And you also get the life coach certification course. It's normally $195. You get Brand Camp. You get all of these things. We've done an all-in-one because we really want to help you succeed, and we want to take any kind of excuses and fear away. I understand uncertainty. Here's what I would say. You don't have to do this thing alone. We're here to see you thrive. I don't want you just learning coaching skills. I want to see you thrive as a business person. And so we've created all these tools. This is what I wish I would have had when I started out as a coach, rather than spending thousands of dollars to get certified and getting a piece of paper that didn't show me how to get clients. We want to cover all the bases and close all the gaps so that you can be successful. And I'm inviting you, like even right now, there's a link inside the description of the video where you can get information. You can get enrolled in 90 seconds, and you can join us this weekend. All right, let me say hello to everyone really quickly again. Anyone want to say hello to me, or you have any questions or thoughts or anything else? Let me make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Oh yeah, here is Irma from Woodbridge, New Jersey. Welcome. Rachel says, Paul's preaching. My apologies for that. It comes very honestly through my family, so you know. Thank you for the applause, Michelle. I appreciate that. Let's see. What other questions to see in here? Marcia says, Marcia from Trinidad, Paul, this session is profound. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It really means a lot to me. Anybody have any questions before we move forward and head out for the day? Thanks for being patient. I know I just gave you a lot of information that had like about 10 points on it today, but I hope that it was really helpful for you, and I invite you to share it. Do me a huge favor. If it was helpful today, like this post. It tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. That's always the indicator. That's how you actually beat the algorithm, because the algorithm's all about engagement. So do me a huge favor and just like, comment, or share this, and it tells them that we're doing a good job. That's all I'm going to ask you to at least do today. Lori says, will you be offering another boot camp weekend, as I will be traveling? Well, here's two options that you have. For those of you who can't make it this weekend, you have two options. One is that you can enroll and you can watch any of the replays from the last 2 years, or you can watch the replays from this weekend's boot camp that we will have posted by Monday night next week. And not only that, is that you can join us for a future live one. So if you can't make it for this weekend, it's the cool thing is to have that option of, if you can't make it the entire weekend, or you've got different things, I understand that things are going on, but you don't have to put things off. You can get enrolled and you'll have access to everything immediately. And let's say that you can only join us for one session or 3 sessions or whatever. Do that, and then you can watch the replays later on your own time. Or you can simply just join us and audit a future boot camp and be with us and experience the entire thing live. I know some of you have a real big value for live, but you're not going to lack the content if you watch it on replay, because we literally record everything in 1080p HD, and you have access to every bit of it at the end of everything. Plus, you get 90 days of the replays. All of the tools that we use for the weekend, the role playing, like everything is posted by that Monday. So you'll have access, all the slides, everything. So hopefully that's helpful. Dustin said, how long did it take you to build a client base that made it sustainable without another job? Well, here's the interesting thing for me. I never had a goal when I was starting out to go full-time as a coach. I was terrified of it, and I was dealing with, like I said, I was dealing with a lot of trauma. So I never had a goal for it. It wasn't, and so what I really did is I was making really, really great side money. And I had a job because here's one of the big things that was happening in my life, so that we know the whole story. My wife had major chronic illness. She was taking she was on a lot of different treatment and everything else. And back then, no one was going to give her health care because Obamacare hadn't passed yet. So I'm working a job that wasn't quite cutting it financially, but we desperately needed good health care. And that was one thing that the job actually provided. So I was coaching on the side, like on a Monday morning and on like a Thursday afternoon during my lunch break and on a Saturday. And so it was really great money that I had coming in. So I literally had thousands that were coming in during that time. And it was just, California's really expensive. I'd already taken a pay cut when I went into the job that I was taking, because it was just it was a really bad time to like lose your job and find a job. All of that was happening back in 2007 and over the next couple of years of that. So what ended up happening is that 2 things happened. One is I was very fulfilled in what I was doing as a coach, and I was increasingly not enjoying my job, and it was increasingly really hard. I was making really good money really quickly, but I was just afraid. Like I was terrified of it all being relied on, me being relied on fully for the income. And also, like, I didn't think that I could get healthcare to the point that I didn't even actually look. I had a mentor in my life that it had kind of come to a head where I'd been going for about a year or so, 2 years. And I was like, man, I've got to do something about this. Like, I've got to make a change. So less than 2 years, actually. And I remember I was sitting there with my mentor. I could go to the place that we were in Santa Barbara. I was sitting with him, and I said, hey, what's the line between faith and risk and responsibility? because I didn't want to ruin everything financially and everything else. And what my mentor told me, which was incredible, he says, what you need to do, Paul, is that you need to parcel out all of your risk. And I was like, well, what does that even mean? He's saying you've got all of this stuff that you're afraid of, and you need to figure out what's the biggest risk that you would be taking that's actually making the decision for you. And I was like, well, I know what that is. It's my wife's healthcare. Now, I don't think that I can get her healthcare. And, but I'd never researched it. And so I ended up researching it. By that week, I had the question answered of that. I went full-time as a coach about a month and a half later. And what happened is that when I went full-time in it, all of that income, because here's the interesting thing. I was making more money working about 10 to 15 hours a month than I was working 160 hours working my regular full-time job. So it only stood to reason if I had more time to work on it, I could double that really easily. And I did. So that first month, I had all of my income actually taken care of that I had lost. And so if that's what your ambition is, and that's what you want to do, then you make a plan for it and you set a goal for it. It just wasn't my goal originally because I had to deal with a lot of toxic thinking and a lot of trauma. That was my own story with it. And for some of you, if you want to be a coach and it's your side gig for the rest of your life, then that's great. Just go do it and go change the world. You know, you want to go full-time in it, then set a plan for it. But I'm really into, hey, you know what? I'm not into telling people to make drastic decisions to unplug from your job and then just go cold turkey and try to create something. There's no reason to create a stressful situation for you because it's not going to do you any good. Take the time to build your business right, get trained, make the right steps, because most of the time I see coaches go and get certified and they do a bunch of really poor marketing messaging, and then they get scared because they're wondering why this doesn't work when all they're doing on social media is saying, you want to coach? Do you want to coach? And that's not the proper steps. And so just, hey, you know, and if we can walk along your side to help you do that, we'd really like to do that because that's what we do. Just so that you guys know, I am a multi-six-figure coach. I only say that because all of you need to know that I have success in this area, and that's not true for every person who teaches coaches. It's a very low bar for people to actually teach coaches how, train coaches on how to coach. It's a very low bar in the industry that you basically need to have a pulse and a certification to be able to do that. And you guys need to know that not only have I been successful at clients and done really well in that I've also made over $1 million online. There's all of these things that you get to tap into for only $97 a month, like if you were doing Jumpstart or whatever. I just want you to know that. I'm not bragging, but I just want people to know, like, hey, you need to know that the person that you're working with has actually done this really, really well and done it successfully, because I want to give you good advice moving forward so that you can grow and develop in those things, you know. You are welcome, Lori. Elise says, are the 3 sessions on Saturday and Sunday different or all the same? Love this teaching, preaching. Thank you. Okay, so they're all different. So 7 completely different sessions. So we start out on Friday talking about the foundations of coaching. And then as we go and progress, basically think about it as I'm going from about a 40,000 foot view to about a 20,000 to all we really hone it in of, like, you know, the coaching tools that you learn, the skills, all of that, the flow of a coaching session, all of those things that end up, we talk about the business side of coaching, how to create coaching agreements, all of that. So they're all different sessions, but it's 7 total. So it is an intensive weekend, but the cool thing is you can start on Friday and wake up Monday morning and you're a certified coach, which is phenomenal. Brendan says, thanks for the presentation. Great information, advice, and explanation. Love your style. Thank you. Try to be as practical and as real as I possibly can. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I'm going to assume that is everything. I got to catch up with a client tonight. So I probably need to grab a sandwich and then go have some fun doing what we do, which is helping people remove the barriers and to move forward in their life. I'm excited about this. Listen, being a coach is like the best thing in the world. Like, it doesn't feel like work. And what my job is for you guys is I want to make it where you're never working another day of your life. Because if you're getting paid to do what you love, you're not working anymore. You're actually getting rewarded for what you were made and are walking the planet for. I'd love for you to join us for boot camp this weekend. 2 ways that you can join us. One is you can just simply enroll in boot camp. If you need a payment plan, we've got you covered. Just go on our website, ilifecoachtraining.com, or click the link in the description and you can get over to our website. Also, the easiest way is probably joining Jumpstart. If you need the business development help, this is helpful for you tonight, and you want to get trained and certified, we've got you covered for only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment, and you're literally getting thousands of dollars worth of training and support to be able to not only become a proficient coach, but to have a thriving practice. And we want to be able to do that for you and help you. If you're still on the journey and deciding, keep tuning in with us and connecting with us so you can get to know us, and that we want to see your confidence build and the fear to be dismissed so that you can move forward. I appreciate you guys all immensely. Oh, let's see. What was that? Bart said, what? If this is preaching, then you keep going and I'll turn the pages. All right, everyone. Hey, have a great rest of your week and take care.